Hello and welcome to The Car Show, which is, you guessed it, a podcast about restaurants and pizza specifically. Just kidding. It's about cars, and today we have picked 3 of our favorite retro-futuristic cars to talk about, and we have not discussed it prior, so we may have some similar cars depending on what we may have picked. But we're going to talk about it in this episode. Now, I am Jeff Sutton, or Jalopy Jeff on the internet, and to my left is Jacob Rippey. Jacob, say hello.
Hello.
And then to my right is Preston Stewart.
Hello, world.
And today we're going to get right into it, starting with Jacob. You go first.
Sir. All right. So we should talk about retro cars in the way that they became very popular in the late 90s, and I don't think we've seen the end of it.
Okay.
And I think we're going to see more like rad era cars, but we're talking about, I don't know, mine are from the mid 2000s mostly.
Yes, I think that's where they're
So my first one, of course, I'm a Toyota guy. I just love Toyota trucks, and I got to go with the 2007 to 2014 Toyota FJ Cruiser.
Okay.
Looks like an FJ40, but what makes it important is the great split of Land Cruisers. So you start out with the 40 series, of course. It's the most popular one that everyone thinks of when you think classic Land Cruisers. They came in fun colors. They kind of look like Jeeps. Don't kill me, Land Cruiser people. And they had GM engines, essentially. But they matured and turned into the 60 series, the 80 series, the 100 series and 200 series. And now they're back to a Prado, but we're getting there. The 300 series is sold overseas. And as they moved along with each generation, they got more and more luxurious, more expensive. I mean, by the time the Land Cruiser was done selling in the US with the 200 series, they were $100,000 vehicles, give or take, especially with markups. People knew it was going away. And they're super high quality, but then Toyota realized some people want Land Cruiser build quality, longevity without the price tag. And so they had a split. About the 80 series, they split off to the 70 series and called it the Prado. You got the 70 series, the 90 series, which was never sold in the US either, which was more kind of like a big forerunner, but you could get with the turbo diesel and a manual. Bless them. 3 rows of seats as more of a family vehicle. And then, of course, we know the 120 series here as the LX or GX 470. And then they made the GX 460. All that to say, Toyota still realized, people want something that's nimble, something that harkens back to the 40 series. And so they brought out the FJ Cruiser.
Nimble was a little bit
the 40 ironic. Series was nimble. It was small, compact.
What did the FJ Cruiser have? 240 horse, right? From the V6?
Well, it was smaller. They fit on trails better than 200
how much do they
series.
weigh?
Nimble for an off-roader, I guess.
Yeah, I guess.
4,000 pounds. Anywho, but what was cool about it is it still was based on the Prado. The GX, the forerunner of the time. It was built on the same platform, used the 4-liter V6, which I know is your favorite.
Right.
But they last forever. They made them forever. And the FJs were built to almost the standard of the Land Cruiser. These things just go and go and go forever, as long as you don't take them in
And
salt.
they've shot up in value, right? They
had quite a renaissance, especially when SUVs got super popular. During COVID, they were just unbelievably expensive.
They basically doubled in price.
Yeah. At one point, it actually had the award for the best residual resale value after 3 years of 97%.
Wow.
A lot of people who leased them bought them out after because it was a crazy deal on an FJ. I think they look incredible. Yes, they're hard to see out of. Yes, they're,
horrible on fuel economy, low on power.
Yeah, they're not fat. They're not going to win a speeding contest.
Wonderful aerodynamics.
But good luck finding something that is as capable, as reliable, and will hold its value as well as a Toyota FJ Cruiser. And that is my first pick for retro done right. They came in fun colors. Steelies, guys. They came with Steelies on the base model. Get them with lockers. They're just incredible, and they have such a big following that you can't deny that Toyota did something right, and they did something wrong by not replacing the FJ Cruiser.
Yeah, I would assume sales started to slump off towards the end.
Oh yeah, fuel economy was pitiful on them, and by 2014, nobody was driving SUVs. They were going back to smaller cars.
Boy, has that changed.
Yeah, and then they went back to SUVs, and Toyota had nothing except the aged forerunner, the way too expensive Land Cruiser, and the Sequoia that nobody cared about.
Which, in theory, we talked about underpoweredness of the FJ Cruiser. It's the same motor that's in the 4Runner, but it got VTEC. So you could technically just drop that in and get an extra 30 horsepower.
Well, they did. In 2010, they actually did get the dual VVTi.
Really? Okay.
Yes, which had its pros and cons. One of the cons, they moved the oil filter, which used to be on the top of the engine and the bottom of the engine, that spilled everywhere, made a big mess, versus the top of the engine, which is super convenient. That's one of the things the FJ guys kind of complain about, is the oil filter placement. But other than that, I mean, it's a big... Oh, and it can run on regular fuel versus the original one that required premium. So
you got to give it to Toyota. I mean, they definitely built vehicles that can take a punch. I've seen some crazy things, vehicles running without fluids.
As long as you keep them out of the salt. That is
Right.
Toyota's blind
That's
spot.
with every
Is
car, Salt ruins everything.
But Toyota's worse than most, including, I mean, you can drive an FJ in a salt-free environment and you'll still have a little bit of frame corrosion. It was that bad.
Yeah, they've gotten better for sure. But, you know, you look at Japanese vehicles from the 60s and 70s, I'm not sure many of them exist because they have all disintegrated.
Exactly. Yeah. I mean, Japan, even though they have a salty climate, you know, because they get a lot of snow in some places.
They are, in fact, an island.
They have
too.
not figured out salt prevention.
It just makes them all limited edition.
Yes.
Okay.
So
Preston.
that was my choice for retro car number 1, Toyota FJ Cruiser. I would totally add one to my driveway.
So was that your number 1 car overall, or just the first on your list?
That's the first on my list. Probably my favorite of all the ones I'm going to talk about today.
Yeah, see, I'm going to say that mine are in no particular order, but what's your car?
Yeah,
Preston?
I think I have a top, but I will say if I had unlimited funds, I'd have an FJ Cruiser. I've always liked them.
They're cool.
Now, everyone knows what my first car. Well, you guys know what my first car is. Porsche
We don't call you P-Car Preston for a
Porsche
reason.
911, boys.
Which one?
Euro
All
car
of them.
guy.
All of them, because it's the same thing.
I want a Porsche. What color would you like, sir?
So yeah, when you first said this, right as we were about to start this, I wanted to start a fight then and there, and now I'm waiting until the podcast has started to now pick a fight with you. It's hard for me to say that the 911, I would argue it's not a retro style design. They just haven't changed the shape.
I disagree.
Why?
Because they have, what was it called? The Heritage Edition or whatever.
They do. So if you buy the...
anything that has
one
houndstooth
that came out
today.
recently with the ducktail?
The Sport Classic.
Sport Classic, thank you.
Sport
Sport.
Classic.
Anything that
That's
has
model.
like factory plaid
And they
or
have the
factory
935.
houndstooth interior.
Yep.
That looks
Yeah, but
like
you
an
can
old
get
car on the
that
outside.
on a brand new 911 Turbo if you really wanted.
Pepita.
Houndstooth. Yeah,
You
they
can
call it
get
the pizza,
Pepita,
but
yeah.
you can get it on a brand new 911 Turbo.
Classic.
They also built the 935 Tribute, which was essentially a Porsche Club Sport
Yes.
with a different body.
Full
On it. And that,
carbon.
of course, is a tribute to that. That car is absolutely retro. If you said 935, I would
Yeah.
give it to you in a heartbeat.
I guess so.
Because that's like a dedicated retro tribute versus the 911, which has just happened to maintain the same
It's a
shape.
continuation of beauty and grace and elegance.
Isn't that a retro car? It's a continuation. If you really stretch the definition.
I guess. Oh, you know what? I will pivot that, and I'm actually just going to lead it into my car and tell you why.
He's
I
just
think
skipping
these
over
could
the
be a
911.
little bit
I know, he
special.
doesn't like it. He
Whatever.
doesn't want it, but it's
I love driving
It's fine.
911s.
It's fine.
So my car, I think, is the primo example of retro-futuristic design. And the reason for that is because the manufacturer used the term retro-futuristic to design it in the marketing as it came out. And that is
Trying to
the
think.
S197 Ford Mustang.
Oh, that's a good one.
Yes.
I remember when that
So-
came out as a kid, and one of my friends had bought one, and it had the little spinner caps on the wheels. I think it wasn't even a GT. It had the little spinner caps, and I thought that was about the coolest car I had ever ridden in.
Yeah.
Yeah, so if you ask me, so this is just FYI if you're not familiar, 2005 to 2014, technically, if you cut it down the middle, there's technically 2 generations of S197s. There were significant changes between the first and second gen, but that car, I don't think there is a better looking Mustang unless you said maybe the first gen.
No.
And this car is the absolute best interpretation of a first gen Mustang in a modern form that they could have possibly.
Yes, but did they age well? Ooh, the owners like if you see a nice one, maybe, but I continuously,
I will own one actually one day. Retrofuturism is actually kind of a like thing for me. Like if I had unlimited funds, like you mentioned, I think I would have all of the retrofuturistic cars, some of which we may or may not talk about on this podcast.
I think I'm gonna find I'm gonna find one that I'm gonna say one that you might not like.
Oh boy.
That I might want to turn into a race car someday.
My first experience in a manual car was an 01 SVT. and it was fantastic.
SN95.
Yep. That was a good car. That's the only experience I have in early Mustang.
The SN95s are great, but the S197 is just that much better.
Yeah.
It brought the car, the interior, because
the
the SN95 was still very much plasticky on the inside. The S197 was that first actual, like, hey,
they got better in
interior.
2011, right? Is when they introduced the Coyote.
5.0.
Or no, that was 2010.
2010.
So 2011 is the Coyote. 2010 is the stepchild year.
That's right. Yeah. And it's a shame they had that
got the facelift, but no Coyote.
I don't know. I think I'd rather have an SN97, to be honest.
Well, I mean, technically they're all SN197s.
Yeah. But
I think they're, more importantly, what made the car so special was that the SN95 was like, oh, hey, Mustang, and you had the IRS models, so it's like, ooh, performance, and they kept it live axle in the rear for the S197. So Mustang people appreciated that, even though that wasn't actually the right move for performance. But nonetheless, they kept it live axle. But the important part was every car was a fastback now. Yeah. And so you had a glass fastback, and then they eventually came out later with actually a full glass that they called the glassback.
Yes.
And so you could get a glass roof and a glass fastback. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so those are pretty cool.
I would do inappropriate things for a Boss 302. I think that was peak of the whole run.
That was, that's...
I mean, the retro style, like the striping, the wheels, everything about that car.
Engine tunes. People talk about the Hellcat and go, oh, red key, black key. But no, the Boss 302 had a track key that made more power and had a special lope that Ford called it.
Blast.
That came on when you used that key. But it had to get up to temp.
That was an excellent suggestion, Jeff.
Yeah. Very good.
I'm going to follow that up with another Ford. You knew this was coming because it's me. 2002 to 2005 Ford Thunderbird, baby.
I love these.
I'm not opposed to retro done right. I know it was built on the Jaguar platform / I think it was Lincoln LS. They all kind of shared
LS.
it.
Yep.
And it had a
all
pretty
very
wheezy,
desirable cars.
Yeah, a pretty wheezy little V. I think it was like a 3.9 V8 or something. It was not a very big V8. Mm-hmm. Didn't make a lot of power. Automatic only.
No, 280, somewhere in there.
I think the later ones made 280. I think it was way less horsepower towards the beginning.
Fairly heavy car.
It was a heavy car. It was it's a cruiser.
Mm-hmm.
But when you think of a Thunderbird, it's a cruiser.
They look glorious.
And I know it's a car exclusively driven by boomers in the greatest generation. But I kind of want one. And I had a model car version of one of these. I took apart my S195 Mustang Cobra and put the engine and the wheels on this and put.
So you were hot rodding a model.
I hot rodded the model, and I haven't been able to get it out of my head because when I look at this car, I think of a race car in my head, white inside and out, Cobra roll bar, modular V8, supercharged Cobra wheels, and then what I want is those two like perfect little fog light holes. Use that as dual intakes a la Thunderbolt.
The other thing that happened with that generation was there's actually the James Bond edition that came out that Halle Berry drove in the movie, and it was that peach color. Oh. And I think that is a great color. Like, I think it's a shame that so many of those Thunderbirds are black, white, or silver.
I love the light blue.
Right. They should be blue. There's a yellow. There's the peach that I mentioned for the special edition.
And what killed it, honestly, was your Mustang convertible coming out with more power for less money and the same kind of style. And I think Ford really
Mustang convertibles are the rental car fleet master.
They are. And
the non-GT trims.
Still. I think Ford could have done better with the Thunderbird, but the styling alone is a winner in my book.
If I'm not mistaken, I think at the first 2 years of the Thunderbird's production, it actually sold like wildfire. And then it immediately started to fall off after that. That's why it was actually canceled prematurely, technically.
Yes.
It didn't run its full production run.
Yeah. So they just dropped off, and all the boomers are like, oh, that looks like the car I grew up with. And
which is a shame, because that was kind of a special era for Ford with the early 2000s, some of the centennial celebrations and stuff that Ford was doing.
Well, then we got the GT, which is...
Right. A very special car.
Forgot about that for the retro done right. That is the most retro done right.
I didn't think
Ford
about that.
GT, this episode's over.
I'm still talking to you guys. That's my third.
Oh, so we actually... Is it on your list? Did it make your official 3? Mm-hmm. Oh, well, now we have to talk about it because it was on your list.
I love the Ford GT.
But that is on my bucket list top 10. I think it's number 5.
If I won the lottery tomorrow, I'd have
number 6. It's number 6.
Yeah, I had one yesterday.
Yeah. And
I agree.
The big question of all the 4 options you can get, which ones would you have? A full 4-option car, or how would you mix and match that? What color would you go with?
I'd have to have a striped car. I know
No, I
that they're
don't
more
want stripes.
common, but I think I'd want a striped car.
I would want a 0-option car.
You gotta have the sound system though.
I don't care about the sound system. I like the stock. I don't like the BBS wheels. I like the standard wheels. I think those were also made by BBS, but
The
I
wheels
like
that
the
go out of
standard
the way with
wheels,
them.
and I think they look even more striking without the stripes,
I don't
even
like
though it's less
stripes.
iconic.
They look cool without the stripes, but it just doesn't. I think the Heritage models are a little crazy because the fact that a Heritage demands such a premium over
One
a
of my
standard
buddies actually
car-
bought one of those. They convinced his grandpa to buy one of those brand new, and he said it was the best financial
Dude,
piece of advice
what
he had ever
a
gotten.
deal. You want to talk about, aside from the McLaren F1, there are not many cars that you could buy and justify as an actual financial investment, but an 05, 06 Ford GT, those cars, if I'm not mistaken, were about $120,000 new.
Yep.
And with options, they were like 140, 160. Like the options were not. I think
Yeah.
the stripes alone were $5,000.
Yeah.
Here's the important part to
Bananas.
cover. There are a
The
ton of
Heritage
those
Edition.
cars still in their wrapping. And so
Yeah.
realistically, you got the best value out of it if you put some miles on it
Honestly,
throughout the period.
and that's what I
Then
would do
sold.
if I owned it. 'Cause apparently, they're quite reliable.
It'd still go for $400K.
Yeah,
Yep.
they're quite reliable. I hear they're great to drive, and I think that's bucket list car number 6 on my list.
Yeah, so I've never driven
Yeah.
one, but I have sat in one. And
Same.
the way the shifter is, your arm basically gets to rest on the center console and shift.
I love it.
Yeah, and it's like, wow, what an
And I
experience.
love the speed holes they put in the
seats.
seats.
Yeah.
That just
Which-
everything about that car is
Toggle
just,
switches. It's just
Oh,
timeless. No
everything.
screens. Everything's perfect.
And they built, there's all this weird aftermarket stuff for those cars too. Ford built a lot of extra parts for them, but they actually built a ton of extra bodies. So there is a company building something called the GT1, and I can't forget the name of the company. It's just GT1. If you look it up, you'll find it. And they're essentially building they have original Ford bodies. I forget the exact number, but they're going to build a run of these track-focused models that are going to have like 1,200 horsepower or something crazy like that.
And that's the
they'll
other thing about the
widen and-
GT is they're absolute monsters
Yeah.
on the 1 mile top speed run
Yeah, the
runway because the
first
aerodynamics are just.
reasonable car, I
Mhm.
guess, to break 300 was a Ford
Yeah.
GT.
Which,
that
let's not
was a
talk
rocket
about
powered.
Gas Munchie Garage because he's a bit of a joke, but
But they actually broke it in a quarter mile, I'm pretty sure, right? A quarter mile or a half mile.
I think it was either the half mile or the full
Which
mile.
is insane, by the way, to use a car that's not rocket powered or otherwise and then do it in such a short distance.
Yeah.
Because most of the records set at Bonneville are not set over half a mile. They're
No, yeah,
set, like you get to build
But
up
it's
speed.
also
and then you have
it's
the
more rolling
distance.
resistance on the salt, and that's what makes it challenging.
Yeah.
The interesting thing, I went to a top speed run competition or whatever,
Mhm.
middle of nowhere, Iowa. It was amazing who showed up. The whole town was there, all 12 of them. Middle farm roads, 2-lane farm roads, and they had it marked for half mile and full mile, and they had it like it was a competition.
Mhm.
And a twin turbocharged GT showed up,
Wow.
and he won by half a mile an hour, beating a nasty C6 ZR1. And it was a 30-mile-an-hour intermittent headwind on an unprepped surface, and he did 197 miles an hour.
That's not too shabby.
That's
Yeah.
not too shabby in the middle of nowhere, Nebraska. It was in Nebraska, not
She's
Iowa.
moving.
Well, Hennessy actually built a twin turbocharged version of the Ford GT,
Yeah.
the 05. It
All
was
3
the Hennessy
customers got them, and
1000.
12 of them were charged for
I
it.
think it was 1,000.
Yeah.
Was
Yeah.
the thing going
Yeah,
for 1,000
yeah.
horsepower? Which is kind of interesting. Which I believe they removed the supercharger.
Yeah.
and
Mhm.
it was just twin turbocharged.
not-
Just twin
yeah, it's
turbo.
not
rather
twin
than
charged.
going for twin charge.
So,
Yeah.
if I had one, I would be completely stock. Like,
No.
supercharger noises.
Don't
praise.
touch it.
I think
Don't
the car's
touch it,
perfect.
yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
As it comes from the factory.
don't need
Plenty
more
of power.
horsepower.
550 horsepower, I believe. Yeah, it's a lot for that car.
Yeah.
It was designed. It was
Incredible.
millions and millions of dollars went into R&D. That car is special.
And they kept it
needs
pretty
to be-
under wraps for the most part
Yeah.
until they released it. And
Yeah.
what a 100th birthday party.
Oh, well, now I have to do the fun fact part. So the concept actually came out in 03, I believe,
Mhm.
when they first unveiled it. But at that time, it was actually called the Ford GT40.
GT40.
Yeah.
But there was a company that I'm spacing the name of that is in the US that was building kit car parts
Mm,
for Ford GTs that were apparently accurate enough where you could put it on a real car if you had to.
unbelievable.
But that company basically reached out to Ford and was like, hey, you got to give us $30 million to use the name for this car. And Ford was like, not a chance.
Was it like
It's the
Factory
Ford
5
GT.
or something?
No, it wasn't Factory
Okay.
5.
No.
It was one of the more unique named ones. Wasn't
Okay.
Superformance, wasn't Factory 5, wasn't any of
Not
those
one of the
mainstream
usual
ones.
subjects.
Correct.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was a random one that I'm sure like people will know because it was like super popular in the 70s and 80s.
So that's why
kit
they went
cars.
GT.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and it makes more
So
sense
it's
than when
before
GT because it wasn't 40 inches
It wasn't
high.
40 inches off the ground.
So-
yeah.
But I mean, seriously, like so many people over the years tried to do like a recreation of the GT40 and leave it to Ford to freaking hit it out.
Well, a
of
lot
the
of the
park.
kit cars were like
Mhm.
misses too because they weren't licensed, and so
Yeah.
they were like 70% of the way there.
I got my 350 in the back.
Yeah, barely held
Gobbles.
together. Yeah, the interior is
Yeah,
plywood.
excellent choice, Preston.
It's a good
All right.
one.
You guys probably saw this one coming.
Here we go.
The Chevrolet SSR,
Oh yeah, I knew this
the
was coming.
convertible pickup muscle truck.
We agree this is a miss.
It's a miss.
What?
I can't do
So
that.
these
It
were-
doesn't look like anything. It's just like a
No,
hodgepodge of things built
What
on
do
a
you mean
Trailblazer
it doesn't
chassis.
look like anything? It definitely looks like a 40s pickup truck.
If you squint, you're
So
wrong.
no. Let's talk about how amazing this
Mm.
truck is. So first of all, this truck should probably have never.
I loved
have
it in fourth
existed.
grade when it came out.
When you think about
When I
like
was blind,
pickup
yes.
truck convertibles, most of them that have happened have been like partnerships with like other smaller companies, like the Dodge Dakota version
yeah.
was licensed out through Dodge. Dodge reached out to a company in Florida, ASC, and was
Yeah.
like, "Hey, please build some convertibles for us." And then they did it because Dodge didn't have the resources. This was built all in house.
things
by
that
GM.
shouldn't have been built by GM that got built by GM should be like their history between like 1999 and 2010.
Mhm.
I'm gonna own one of these one day for sure.
I know.
But I've already looked at so many. But
Leave it to them to be
I've
like,
driven-
we've created a sporty truck that kind of looks retro, but
That's a convertible.
kinda
it is
not.
legitimately a sport truck.
And then they're like, and we're gonna put a 5.3 iron block in it.
Look at it this way: it is a legit
with a 4-speed
muscle
slush
truck.
box.
Yeah, so the early ones aren't that great with the 5.3. Obviously, the important ones are the 6.0s, which came in
The LS2s,
the last 2 years.
400
of
horsepower
production,
did
Yeah.
some
which
things.
were available with a manual.
Yes, they were 6-speed.
Yes, a 6-speed. I
And
believe
by
it was a
then, they had
Tronic.
already bought the people who wanted them had already bought them.
Yeah, but
Mhm.
it exists, and
It
it
exists.
demands a significant premium over the standard 5.3
Yes.
cars. I believe those will go for like 50K minimum, as opposed to like you can find a
Why?
higher mileage SSR for like 20K, 15, 20K, and then kind of work their way up
I
based on.
feel like every
mileage.
time I see one at a car show, it's got a boomer board in front of it.
Or it has flames.
Well, you want to know what the best part
Flames,
is about it?
yeah, it's always got
So
flames.
think about like
And neon. It's always
90s
neon.
and
Gross.
2000s concept cars and how much of them existed but never made it to production or were changed significantly from when they debuted.
Oh,
like
this
the
one looked
S197.
just like it.
The S197 concepts, there were two different concepts of the S197 Mustang.
And a Ford Pro.
It looked like
Yeah.
a rough sketch of either. Like the silhouette was the same. That was about it of the concept cars. But the SSR, the only thing that was changed from the concept was the front has that silver edge, right, that goes into the headlights.
Yep.
That was also on the rear. There was a bar on the rear that went through the taillights. They got rid of that. And that the SSR as it was pretty much made it into production.
Slightly
the way it
smaller
came.
wheels as they do, but
Yeah, but here's the thing. I've driven, I've gotten my hands on both a 5.3 and a 6.0. And here's what I'll tell you. So the 6.0 has all the power. It's awesome. But the 5.3 will still definitely spin tires and, it gives you enough get up and go. Plus, it's a 5.3 LS-based motor.
Yeah,
so
you can-
performance
you can
parts are
freshen
a
it up
dime
a
a
little
dozen
bit,
if
yeah.
you need to. Yeah, there's tons of supercharger kits. But they have get up and go. You have the convertible top, and it's fantastic. But they're based on the Trailblazer platform, so they don't actually drive like a 2000s pickup truck. They drive like a sporty, muscly SUV. So they feel good.
I'm still in the camp that if I wanted that platform, I would get a Saab 97X Aero.
Mm.
So you get the same engine. You actually get utility.
But how does the convertible work?
Open the sunroof.
Right.
Why would you want a convertible truck though? What is the why?
Also, they all came with locking tonneau covers, so
Oh,
it was
wow.
never really intended to be
It's never a
truck
useful truck. It's like
Yeah.
a giant bed.
You already made the
trunk.
sacrifice for towing and payload capacity by not putting it on a truck platform. So you're already committing to the fact that it's a muscle truck.
do you want a
The same-
convertible
If you
more?
buy a Raptor or a TRX, you make payload and towing sacrifices for off-road suspension. This is the same thing. It's just a street-focused
If I'm going to
muscle
have a
truck.
performance truck, I'm buying an SRT10.
Also, it was a power convertible
dude.
top, so...
I'm buying an SRT10.
Those are
I'm sorry.
great.
I want a Viper motor
Yes.
in it. I don't want a convertible
Go all the way.
bubble.
I'm not going to argue
I'm not
against an
buying a
SRT10.
convertible
If
truck.
I want a performance truck, I get a Raptor R.
Okay,
Yes.
modern.
Yes,
Yeah,
that is
sure.
the primo.
T-Rex,
Like, the fact
Raptor
that-
R.
That is
Even-
peak truck, folks.
Yeah, I
Sure.
can talk about the Raptor R forever.
I
'cause
love
the
the
fact
Raptor.
that like
I actually
the
like
structure
it,
underneath
yeah.
is actually different to reinforce the Raptor R differently
It
from
is.
standard Raptor.
Well, and even the
Ford
one with
performance-
37s has a different frame, like
Yeah.
underneath.
Mhm.
Yeah, anywho.
Ford
Fantastic.
performance doesn't miss.
We digress.
Yes, good. Anyways.
We
But
love you,
SSR.
Jeff, but we don't agree with you. Okay,
Yeah.
moving on.
Retro gauges. I'm going to keep going.
I'm
Retro
going to
interior.
not do the one you're going to do last.
Okay.
The one you've ordered twice. And I'm going to go with the current Nissan Z. And
okay.
I like these. I like these. And what I like about these is I mentioned earlier that we're going to see more 80s and 90s throwbacks. I mean, I'm sure you can kind of see...
They tease them all the time.
They tease them all the time. Mm-hmm. Nissan finally did it because you look at the taillights and it looks like a 300Z. I like the fact that
it's a blend of multiple generations.
That's the cool thing is most of the time when you get a retro car, it looks like a car, like one model. So like your Mustang looks like a first gen Mustang, yep. You know, the Bronco, not to give that away, it looks like a first gen Bronco.
Yeah.
The FJ Cruiser looks like a FJ40.
Right.
The new Z looks like a 300ZX. It looks like the original Z. It looks like, I mean, the way they blended it all together while making it a continuation model, but not really, is really cool to me. And yes, it's overpriced. Yes, the stock brakes suck from everything I've read, which has never changed.
I don't think they're really overpriced. Because think about what that car is fighting against.
What are they selling for? What are Supras selling for versus what are they selling for?
So Supra is 40 or 60.
Yes.
The Z
actually is 40?
No, Z starts at 45, 48.
But you have to spend 10 grand to get all the good stuff.
You got to get the performance pack, which gives you the higher top speed.
And honestly, like I think they would sell I want to see 1 million of these things on the road because every time I look at one, I'm like, that looks good.
I want them to succeed.
But they were stupid because they overpriced it for what it is. I think they should make it cheaper and sell a lot of them. I'll maybe detune it a little bit. Fight against the BRZ for heaven's sakes. Don't go after the Supra.
They should do both.
Yes, they should have a range.
Nissan in the 90s had
and then they're like
5 cars based on the same
edition,
platform.
Automatic only. Come on, guys. What the heck?
They missed
So I think they should make a la carte performance options to keep the performance price down. I think it should come standard with the performance pack as far as I'm concerned. They should offer a few more interesting colors and knock 5 to 10 grand off the price. It would be a winner. But instead, the Nissan dealers are still charging them.
That part.
The best version of it has an automatic only, which is dumb.
Yep.
They missed the mark, but styling wise, oh my gosh! When it came out, I was like, why would anyone buy the Supra when that exists?
No, I agree. I think looks wise the Z wins, but I would rather have a Supra. Every day.
Yeah,
any day,
a better car,
and it's outselling the Z. The Z is not. I don't think the Z selling is going to Super sales.
I think,
and Super sales aren't that great.
if the Z went after the BRZ and the Miata.
Mm-hmm. We need more of that class.
Decontent it a little bit.
Yeah.
Detune it a little bit.
Yeah.
And sell it for $35,000, you know, with some parts on it.
Car compared to a Miata. I don't know if it could fight in that range. It could maybe be between the two.
Yeah.
They tried to put it in like the 35, 40K range comfortably. And then especially if they could, I don't know how much that powertrain costs to build. It's a twin turbo V6, but they've had it for previous cars.
So an A version that's
it's
a little
carryover.
more powerful than the 370Z. I'd decontent it a little bit.
It's very much still a VQ-based
standard
motor.
With what?
It's still a VQ-based motor.
It's a VQ-based motor.
People want trumpets.
Okay.
No, I hate that.
I was going to say, that's the problem isn't the engine. The right exhaust on a VQ sounds pretty good. The problem is the owners straight pipe them, and they sound terrible.
The stock exhaust. I've never heard an aftermarket exhaust that made a VQ sound good.
Tone over noise.
Except
there's good exhaust
stock one,
for
it's
VQs.
like burbly a little bit. Anywho,
yeah.
I digress.
Okay,
that is my...
I was going to say, I've got to jump in the ringer and start swinging here. I've actually had a regular Z press car. I've had the Nismo press car, and I've driven a Supra 6-speed car.
I remember that car.
So first of all, I wouldn't order a 6-speed in the Supra. I do not like what they built for that car. I do not like the transmission. The clutch felt like springy, almost like there was like 2 stages to the
that's
clutch.
all modern manuals are like
no, modern BMW manuals.
Okay, I have extensive miles in a modern M3, and I will say it is rubbery for a feel for shifting.
Yeah.
And the clutch is light, but I never had an issue with the M3. I like the M3.
Have you driven the current ND Miata in a stick?
No.
I knew he was going to bring the Miata.
He always
also,
brings
I'd rather have an MT82 in the current Ford Mustang generation. S550 and the S650.
No
chance. That BMW
really?
manual. Yes.
No.
Also, BMW neuters the manual cars.
I've heard good things about that transmission, though, the stick and the Supra. I've heard that it's different from Toyota fiddled with it to make it different from standard BMW.
Look, it might be fine for some people, especially if they've just driven 3 Series BMWs all their lives. That's not me. I didn't really like it. I like Tremec transmissions. I like Miata transmissions. I just wasn't a fan of that one. Well, here's what I will say about the Nissan thing. What does Nismo actually stand for?
Nissan Motorsports.
Okay, so where would you expect that car to be? On the track, right?
Yeah.
So the transmission for that car should be whatever's fastest around a track if they're going to make one choice, which is going to be that
but they're not
Mercedes licensed.
But there's a reason the GT3
clutch.
comes in manual and PDK. Because you have option. Because you want to be fast, sure, but you also want to have enjoyment, right?
Yeah.
So you have both options.
But you can buy a Z with a manual, just not the Nismo.
But that's not the class where someone's going to be competing.
Yeah, but
but you're slower with a manual.
It's a glorified.
Who cares?
It's not. The Nismo is a street car. I'm sorry, it's not a track car.
These
cars are all going to overheat on the track. They will. The brakes will give out. They will overheat.
Nismo's got extra coolers.
One thing that still lives right in my head is the
it.
fact you guys have obviously heard of Lightning Lap Car Driver.
Yep.
And I think it was 2009 when the 370 came out. Do you remember what happened to that 370?
Nope.
The brake fluid boiled on the straightaway at VIR. The guy went 100 miles an hour into the guardrail and totaled all 4 sides, walked away miraculously. Nissan took it back and realized, oh yeah, these performance cars come stock with DOT3 brake fluid that boils.
What does the Nismo have? Let's do research.
Well, now they've upgraded the brakes, but
so the tires and wheels and stuff like that are on that car are essentially the same compound and stuff that you get if you were to buy an R35 GTR Nismo.
Yeah, because it's standard.
So a lot of the stuff that they did to the GTR Nismo, which is a $180,000 car, something crazy like that.
GTR.
I love the R35, but the Nismos are outrageously expensive.
Yes. No, I would have like a second year standard. That's like the poster.
2010.
Yeah, but everything that makes those
miles,
cars special for the added track performance was done to the Nissan Z Nismo.
I'm just thinking like the new what's the new Mustang coming out? The track special.
GTD.
The GTD.
Oh,
I would expect that to have an automatic. Because that's a track
not a Mustang.
car.
It is.
You know, the GT3 RS.
Still front engine.
That
GTD
makes
is
sense
dual clutch.
that, that's an automatic. Because automatic, that's a race car for the road.
Yeah.
I will never look at a Nissan Z Nismo and think,
Nismo's different. Nismo used to mean something, and like
now it means red accent.
The cars are a little bit heavy for a track car.
Nismo's an accent
The only
package
Nismo
now.
I would ever consider driving, you guys will roast me for this.
No, I know what it is. The Juke.
The Juke Nismo.
I knew it.
Yes.
Because the stick Juke Nismo. Yeah.
If I'm going to look ridiculous, go all the way.
I was driving against one of those.
Honestly,
the Happy Frog.
Honestly, the Nismo edition, not the RS, but the Nismo edition apparently has the most incredible seats from the factory car.
Yeah.
You can get it with the stick shift. Apparently on some coilovers and a couple of bolt-ons, those things terrorize autocross.
What's the GTR powered version?
The Juke R. They only made like a small number.
Adding that to my lottery list.
Yeah. There's like 7 of them or something.
Yeah. For $1 million a pop. Worth everything.
I would have one. I would have one.
You know they're all in.
But I would have to win several lotteries before that is a car.
That is. When have you seen a Juke R?
Look, but here's the thing: the VR38 is a great motor on its own. So you could have plopped it into a brick, into a shed, and I'd be like, "Yep, it'll be fast."
But the Juke R is special. It's something when it comes from
those cars are so ugly.
If I wanted,
the
most ridiculous Nissan of all time, which is on my list of if I win the lottery cars, I gotta have a Murano Cross Cab.
Here we go.
Okay,
so I can pull up to Cars and Coffee, and people be like, "That guy gets it."
Yeah, as far as quirky cars go, because that's something you could cruise around at Monterey Car Week, and people will be like, "Oh, that's an enthusiast
oh my gosh,
right there."
Yeah, they're taking pictures of
Matt Farrow would be impressed.
Yeah. Oh yeah,
and I'd be like, "Look at this." Okay, moving on.
I'll give you that one.
So go ahead and your third.
You know my last one's gonna be the Bronco. Yeah. I love the Bronco.
How many have you ordered?
They nailed it.
I shouldn't have canceled my order.
How many have you ordered?
How many have you?
I've changed. Well, I ordered one, but I changed my order many times.
What's the current wait time?
And how many?
2 years?
I waited like 2+ years, and they still didn't build it.
And how many Broncos have you gotten?
0.
Yeah.
0. I should have kept it. I canceled it because after 2 years, I lost interest. I went another direction. I actually almost bought a Jeep, surprisingly, which I'm glad I didn't buy the Jeep.
Oh, yikes.
But I love...
That's not a compromise.
The Bronco
They did
looks
such a
fantastic.
Job. You know, the truck's been out since it's 2021, right?
Yeah, it's been a little bit.
And to this day, every time I see one, I'm like, "Whew, new Bronco."
I'm still impressed.
They look good.
I don't, the Jeep might have better articulation, and I get it.
And come on Steelies in the base models.
And come
Not
on
anymore.
What?
Well,
They canceled.
Did they stop that?
You can still get a Range Rover in Steelies, though, right?
Yes.
110.
The 90 and the 110. Yeah.
Well, I ordered a 2-door Sasquatch automatic 2.7 in
Squatch.
Area 51.
Great color.
And then I changed it to silver,
Which one's
iconic
Area
silver.
51?
That's the light blue. The
Which
bluish
one?
gray.
Oh, that's what
Remember
it's called?
that Area
Area
51?
51.
It's like a slate
The only
color.
color names that I knew that I'm already forgetting one was Eruption Green, because
Yep.
that was introduced.
We're getting to
We're
Eruption
getting,
Green.
we're getting there.
But then the yellow was my favorite launch color.
Cyber orange.
Cyber orange.
was my favorite.
School bus
So
orange.
That's what I would get.
I drove. I went on an off-road Bronco adventure in a cyber orange 2-door Outer Banks,
Nice.
Those are
and I
great.
got that thing on like teetering on 2 wheels.
Outer
and
Banks
I-
is 33s, right?
Yeah,
Slightly taller.
Yeah. With a rear
And
locker.
it didn't have like the steely wheels. It had the full nice wheel package on it. But man, I was so impressed. We went out over in it was BLM land, and it was with the Bronco team. And I had such a good time.
They're an incredible
was
build.
awesome.
I
Yes.
really like them.
Styling is
both
nice.
the engines they come with are gems.
Yeah, 2.7, 2.3.
I love that you can
They
get
look
a
a little
manual.
bit like spaghetti. The amount of vacuum wires that run loose under the hood. Like,
So-
No
I guess-
one looks under the hood these days anyway.
And the reason my order was pushed off is because when they switched over to allowing manuals in Sasquatch, I switched mine from a 2.7 auto to a 2.3 manual
That's
Sasquatch.
a 7-speed. That's in the
It's a
front,
7-speed
right?
with crawler. It's
got
a 6-speed with a crawler.
It's a dog leg.
Yeah. So, and I switched over to that, and that was the most in-demand model. The two
In what
doors
color?
had issues in Eruption Green.
No, we don't say it like that. How do you say it?
Oh gosh.
Eruption green.
Eruption Green, ladies and gentlemen. So I switched my order to the most popular model, and 2-doors already had delays with the hardtop because
Yes,
the
they did.
hardtop had issues, mold issues with the moldings had issues, I guess, and delaminating and lots of problems.
Good old Ford
People were
problems.
having their Broncos delivered without the hardtops.
Yeah, they were. So the
Do you
4-door
guys-
people were forced to soft tops.
You know what lives rent free in my head is there was a 4-door, and the guy bought it and brought it to the Arctic Circle where the guy lives, like one of the most
Oh, wow.
northerly towns. And he walks out, and there's like a foot of snow inside his brand new Bronco.
Yeah.
Because it like got under the soft top
Yep.
and leaked in, and it
no.
looked like everything was like frozen. He had to thaw out his car to bring it to the dealership, and it
Yeah.
made national news.
Yep.
Well,
I remember that.
Had
was
he
not a good
already
look.
removed his doors, he could have just shoved it out the side. To be fair, the Broncos interior, right? The whole thing was, hey, it's washable, it's easy. So he
Yeah, but it
used,
doesn't look great when it's.
But not all of
it's
them.
completely
Some of them
frozen.
you have the flooring with the holes, but some of them have carpeting. You can get carpeting in them. I remember that was an option a while back.
for all the
but
ones that are going to be
depending on
mall
the model. If you went Outer
That's
Banks,
most
I
of
know
them.
there was a difference. I don't know exactly. But the 2-door people, you couldn't get a soft top. They didn't care. They were like, well, you're on weight. You have to have a hard top for a 2-door. They didn't even give it an option. They wouldn't deliver it with a soft top. That's what
Well, if
people
I'm not
are
mistaken,
begging.
the hardtop was actually produced by a separate manufacturer.
It
Wasn't
was
Germany,
produced
Ford
yeah.
directly,
by a
right?
different
Somebody else.
Yeah.
They had some issues with like premature cracking and some other stuff.
cracking, delaminating, stuff like
I
that.
have to say, because I think it was like the 3rd or 4th year the Broncos out, they came out with the best version of it called the Heritage Edition.
Oh,
Edition,
Lord.
yeah.
In Robin's Egg
Today's
Blue.
theme.
And the Broncos Sport
and it
had
had
a Heritage
1952
Edition.
Steelies from the factory.
At least
And-
that like looks more retro, and the Broncos styling's retro, as
Yeah.
opposed to the Heritage package for the F-150, which is still just a brand new truck
No,
with
that
some red and
sucks.
white
Yeah, that
stickers.
if they could have phoned it in, they did. But the Heritage, and it's the best value because it's the cheapest way to get a Sasquatch
Yeah.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Interesting.
with a manual.
I will say this. I remember the Heritage Editions when they first came out were like selling for no reason 20 to 30K over at auction. And this
Oh,
was
yeah.
like after like the initial hype, because like Broncos in general, base models were selling 20 to 30 over.
Oh yeah,
If you got one early. It was a crazy time. I remember going to malls and seeing them in parking lots, and people would just have signs on them in the parking lots, for sale, 90K. And you're like, oh my Lord.
Mhm.
that'll be a fun used bargain someday. But today is not that.
I
day.
want one, yeah. But
Do you know what they go for now? Used?
I think they're fairly reasonably
They,
priced.
they
Yeah.
hold their value really well,
Right.
Yeah.
but they're not going for the same markups as they used to.
I would
be.
say you're paying
Yeah.
within 10% of what the MSRP was
that's
still.
fair.
Which
Yeah.
honestly, Ford's been on a roll because a lot of their cars right now.
Any of their
are-
enthusiast vehicles are exciting.
Hell, the Maverick. I want a Maverick.
True. The Mavericks sell like hotcakes.
And they hold their value.
because they're
Good luck finding one at a dealer lot.
Yeah.
Most of the ones you find at dealer lots aren't even the base models, and people want base models.
Yeah.
Oh, yeah.
And you just can't find them.
Base model hybrids, even though I've been on the forums a lot because I want one. And it's the 2 liters are the better buy because not only the power output you can get from them, but the reliability is actually a lot better. The hybrids are having so many issues.
I had a Tremor recently with the 2 liter. I
like
the 2 liter.
I wanted that Tremor so bad. Okay, moving on.
Yeah, the possibilities of it are great. Okay. So my car, and you know, it's funny, as we're doing this conversation, the amount of cars that are technically retro cars, there's popping in my head, like the Challenger and Camaros, right?
Oh, the Challenger.
Those are both technically retro.
I think I like the Challenger better than your Mustang.
They just, well, in their defense, they came really late to market, okay?
The concepts came out about the same time. Just took Dodge a while to get their heads out of their butt and redesign a E-Class chassis to fit a coupe.
Right. Which are fairly balanced chassis. Well, they're fairly balanced nonetheless. Anyways, my pick is actually the Prowler.
Oh,
the Prowler to me, okay, when I was younger, like before I could even, the initial concept penned by Chip Foose, which was then taken and given a Chrysler spin on it. But what a car. I think, to me, as a kid, I had a model that was purple with the trailer.
Oh, you had the trailer?
Had one. Yeah, and this was like when I was like little, like when you were like were aware of cars, but still just pointing like, oh, I like that one. You know, not actually aware of what all is happening, but that's like.
Oh, I was 5 and I was like, that's a Prowler.
Yeah. So, which is funny because it eventually changed to, it was a Plymouth, right? But eventually changed to the Chrysler Prowler.
Rest in peace, Plymouth.
Yeah, the biggest shame about those cars is just that V6, man. It's powerful. Admittedly, they're fast cars for what they are.
Yep.
The transaxle thing is a shame because now as they're used, unfortunately, you get a transmission fault issue with the transmission computer, and that can brick those cars because nobody builds them new.
There's a shocking aftermarket support for those, and there's a huge community of people.
Because there's another problem with them, like the way they shift that you can also
you can put a shift kit in them. You can spice them up a little bit.
Engine swap.
Or you can engine swap.
Get rid of the 6.
There's at least one Hellcat swapped one that I've been able to see in person that rolled across an auction block.
The problem is you have to think Chrysler at the time had no money, obviously.
Right.
We're lucky we got the Prowler and the Viper at the same time.
They were essentially, it was essentially a period of them stealing heritage, if you think about it. The Prowler, let's be honest, is building off the success of the 32 Ford.
Was that a Bob Lutz special?
Yes, absolutely. So is the Viper. Yeah. Viper is a modern Shelby Cobra. Both cars are stealing heritage. Now, yes, you can say that there are 30s Chryslers that the Prowler was inspired by.
That's a Ford.
But the 32 Ford is what established hot rod
Ford
culture.
Cobra.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes,
which,
they stole heritage from Ford
Bob
to build those
worked
cars.
for Ford, and they wouldn't pull the trigger.
Yeah, so both the Viper and the
Iacocca was at Chrysler,
Prowler.
Similar time.
Yeah,
and Ford was also supposed to have the first minivan.
Iacocca also brought Shelby to Mopar.
Yeah, so what a powerhouse.
Yeah, what a time for Chrysler.
Yeah, I like the Prowler. It's iconic. I don't fault them because when you look at the time, I mean, the only V8s they had were not Hemis. They were the 5.2 and the 5.8. Big iron block, heavy, wouldn't fit.
Garbage.
They tried, they failed. And so they didn't have an engine other than the V6. And the V6 is making pretty dang good output compared to their V8s.
Yeah.
So
fair enough.
Well, that concludes.
They were relatively lightweight cars.
Yeah.
Yeah. Well, and it was the first time they messed with aluminum space frames. They were using just like space technology for the 90s.
Yeah, I like the look. Yeah.
I don't blame them for doing it, and I'm glad it exists because that's another concept car like the SSR that really shouldn't have been made, but God bless that
I'm so glad
they
did.
Nostalgia sells. People love heritage.
Oh, absolutely.
And I think that was a good hit for them. That it was a good one. I liked it.
The biggest shame is all of the cars that were unveiled as concepts that were never produced. Things like specifically that like 3.0 CSL thing that BMW came out with. That car was so hot.
I'm going
what a shame.
The best concept car that never got produced and should have.
The Nissan.
Nope.
I'm thinking of one.
Chrysler ME412. They created a
I'm not sure
V12.
I don't know what that is.
Is that the funky looking one that has the Dodge 4 bars in the grill, but it's shaped like a sleek sports car?
Nope.
The GT90 is a cool one.
Mine would be the Golf GTI W12.
That wasn't a concept car. That was a one-off.
Yeah,
was it a one-off or was it a concept?
No,
because I remember seeing that.
Because that was when Volkswagen just bought Bentley. And so it was basically like, oh, you bought all these expensive brands because Bentley was owned by Rolls-Royce, same company.
Here you go.
Let me see what it is.
Oh, okay.
Oh, that looks cool.
That looks just like the GT90.
That looks just like the
Maybe a little bit of an
GT90.
Audi
Yeah.
R8 in there.
Speaking
But
of,
it had a V12 engine and
Good lord.
many horsepower. I'm sure.
one last car to bring in is the Beetle, the Volkswagen Beetle.
The new Beetle.
Yeah.
The new Beetle.
And the Mini Cooper.
Well,
all
Mini
those
Cooper,
are great.
yeah.
One car that
Especially
I
the first
Iteration.
redone gen.
yeah,
the early
but
2000s.
one
and
car
top
I'd really
cars.
love to own if I had a lot of money is the Beetle RSI.
Yeah, those are cool.
I
Yes.
With the VR6 in
need
it.
one of
Mhm.
those carbon fiber doors, red leather carbon seats.
Those are insanely expensive though, right?
Oh, stupid!
They're like
Well,
100K
and-
or something.
Yeah.
But
you have to
man,
import it.
I will have one. I'm gonna have one. They're in Mexico. I'll just go get one. I'm gonna
Yeah.
do it. I
Bring a Jimmy
love,
for me, would you?
I love that car with a passion. I used to play a video game on Xbox.
Oh,
And
it was an Xbox car.
yeah, it's an Xbox car. It was in a game in Xbox, and it's called Midtown Madness.
Okay.
And that was the car to drive, and it had the wing, and it was silver, and it would
It
have
wouldn't be that hard to make your own.
No,
honestly,
no,
'cause
it's
the
not
VR6
hard.
bolts right in.
Yeah, you can do it. It's just a
Anywho.
pain.
Well,
So, anyways,
that ends our retro car talk. You
Yep.
guys ready for some automotive trivia?
here we go.
Let's do it.
Let's do it.
You guys ready to quiz on each other? All right. Okay. So this is not multiple choice. This is fill in the blank because I didn't have a lot of time to come up with these. Some of these are
Oh, boy.
softball. Some of these are hardball. I'm going to give you
All right.
10 of them today.
Great.
Do it.
Let's see how well you do. Okay. Number 1. Which car was sold in the U.S. as an electric car and Canada as an internal combustion car, but not the other way around?
You know, we've definitely talked about this at a Cars and
We
Coffee
have.
before, and I
And how good is your memory?
not good because I can't
wait.
remember it all.
I remember
I don't-
we talked about.
I don't even
this.
have a guess. Actually, I don't even.
And you guys are gonna, you'll know it when I say it.
It was sold electric here.
Yeah,
but-
it was only electric in the U.S. and it was only gas powered in Canada.
Wait. Oh,
It's kind of like what's going to happen with the Alpine A110. I think they've hinted that it might come EV to the US.
Oh, sad.
Yeah.
I want the real one.
Me too.
The fact that they reduced the washer reservoir capacity to save a few pounds.
Is it
Nope.
JDM?
No,
Is
No,
it
German.
it's not. It's German.
It's German.
it's German.
Okay, so it's going to be a
Oh.
Volkswagen.
Nope.
No, it's not.
You have a press car right now. The same maker.
So it's a
Mercedes.
Benz.
It's a
Benzie.
Mercedes. What did we really? Hang on.
You never see these here.
No.
Yeah, I'm going to have no clue.
No.
Mercedes B-Class. It was like a little sad-looking hatchback.
no! I remember the B
Yes,
class.
and you can get a gas one in Canada and only an electric one here
No,
with 80
really?
something miles of range.
I was thinking
It
R
was-
class, but it wasn't R.
Wow, that's like BMW i3 levels of like poor electric
Except
Yeah.
the
capabilities.
i3 was useful. 'cause it
okay.
had the
That was an
generator.
obscure.
Okay.
Good. That was a good one.
Number 2, this is softball, okay?
All right.
Thank goodness.
And you can't answer because we already went over this one.
Oh, okay. Yeah, I know what it is.
Warner Brothers
Yeah.
sold the rights to a beloved cartoon character in 1968 to which
This is
manufacturer?
That's an easy one. Yeah.
Yeah, it's Plymouth.
Plymouth. Done.
Yep.
Okay.
They sold
In-
it for $50,000.
It was a lot of money at the time.
Yeah,
Yeah, it was
for the time.
expensive.
And the horn makes the car, the Plymouth Roadrunner.
It
Okay.
does. And the Superbird's on the Superbird too.
And the
Superbird,
Superbird, yeah. Okay. In 2004, Oprah Winfrey gave 276 of which car to her audience? You get a car.
It's
you
gotta be
get
a Prius.
car. Nope.
Oh,
American. And people track.
what year?
You never.
2004.
You never told the answer to me, huh? Okay,
I felt
hang on.
like it was a little later, but I didn't realize they
Ford
made this
Taurus.
car as early as 2004.
Taurus.
Ford Mustang.
Not a Ford.
No. Hang on.
It's a Pontiac.
Really?
It's a
Pontiac G6.
G6.
G6 is
everyone,
out?
Yeah, everyone
Really?
in the they essentially handpicked people who needed cars, and they 276 of these things filled the
I
parking
hope
lot.
they paid
put
the
'em-
taxes for them.
They did. Well, yes and no. They paid the sales tax, like the registration
Yeah.
fees. Pontiac actually paid that out of pocket,
Wow.
but everyone in the audience essentially had to pay because they won the car.
And what
$7
happened in
grand.
2008 to Pontiac?
They went underwater. I think they should have killed Buick, but China. Anywho, okay.
Yeah.
Who is the world's largest manufacturer of tires?
Michelin.
That's number 2.
Oh,
Ling Long.
no, hang on.
Nope.
Cooper.
Not
Is
quite.
it a mainstream Pirelli?
Nope.
No, what?
Really?
No.
I don't know.
Smaller.
You can't get away from Pirelli tires by offering tires once every year for LM002s
Hang
and
on.
Countachs.
Hang on.
You're thinking too
Hankook.
Smaller.
Firestone.
Smaller?
Smaller.
Bridgestone.
Smaller.
Oh wait, Kuma.
Smaller.
Lego!
What?
They sell 4 or 5 times the tires as Michelin does.
What?
Gosh dang
They are
it. I
technically
knew that
the
one.
largest manufacturer of tires in the world.
Just not the best tires.
Stupid.
No. They don't go very fast. Okay.
Stupid.
Which manufacturer pioneered lean manufacturing in automobiles?
Lean manufacturing?
Oh, it's got to be a JDM company, so it's going to be Toyota.
Toyota.
Yeah, that's what I think, yeah. No.
Produced in 1982, what is the first American-produced Japanese car?
American-produced
Japanese car.
Dodge Colt, the Mitsubishi. No?
American-produced?
Yes. 1982. It was the first Japanese car produced by Americans.
It can't be 1980. Oh, you mean designed by Americans as a Japanese
Like
car?
built in America?
Yeah.
Okay.
First Japanese factory.
Toy.
Still making this particular car. It's in a state no one wants to live in. Marysville, Ohio.
What are they? It's a Japanese car built here.
Yes.
Is it typical?
Oh yeah, they're everywhere.
Corolla?
No.
No?
No.
Yeah.
Corolla was
I don't know what year
late
that-
80s, early 90s, and
Was
I'm
it?
about to just start. Is it a sedan?
it's a Honda Accord.
Oh,
Really?
I don't know, a U.S. designed vehicle.
I
First
thought
US
Honda, but I didn't.
produced Japanese vehicle, and
I
they
didn't-
did
oh, I
it to
didn't-
get around taxes and.
Oh, I didn't know
Yeah,
that.
it's kind of a tricky one.
That's a
It's-
yeah.
Okay.
Technically, the
Good one.
Miata was
All right.
also heavily engineered.
Speaking
by
of
US
Miata.
people.
Oh, here we go.
The 1990 Miata came in 3 colors: red, white, and blue.
Mhm.
The Mariner Blue. What was that color based off of? What did they design Mariner Blue, the original Miata Blue,
Oh gosh,
In the
I'm not-
90s?
in 1990?
Is it
Technically 80.
is it European?
No, it's a thing.
It's a
What
what?
does the car look like? Like what color did they steal?
Oh gosh, I don't know. I'm
Mariner
not even sure
blue.
what that color looks like at the top of my head.
It's a
It
light.
looks
It's a
like
light
that
blue.
blue.
Yeah, it's a light blue.
It's
yeah.
like it's a primary blue.
And this was offered. Oh no. Okay, I'm familiar
primary
with this
blue
color.
1990 Miata. They sold that color through 90.
Is it supposed to be inspired by Golf or something?
Nope.
It's inspired by a thing.
It's a thing.
It's not another color.
And it's not the water.
It's a thing that could have been put on said Miata.
Could have been put on said Miata.
Mhm.
It's blue.
It's blue.
I give up. I don't know.
Blue California license plate.
Oh,
Really?
Okay, so like the older license, like 70s.
That's
Ah.
California
what
plates.
Mariner
Yeah.
Blue is based off of.
Really?
Okay. That was number 7. Okay.
Those are tough.
Yeah, some of these
Top
are really
Gear.
hard.
Top Gear used a Suzuki Liana as a track car for the stars and the
even-
reasonably priced cars.
Mhm.
Oh, okay.
Yep.
What does Liana stand for? This
No
is a
idea.
fun one.
Yeah, this is too hard. I don't know.
Life in a New Age.
Weird.
Yeah.
I did not
They
know that.
always
I
name a
saw
lot
that
of
and I
those
was
like
Yeah.
weird, quirky cars.
These are really
So
good.
weird.
Actually,
Okay.
they're tough though.
You've heard of the chicken tax, correct?
Yep.
Yep.
And we all know the Brat used the jump seats in the back to get around the chicken tax.
Yes.
Sure. Yeah.
What did the Ford Transit Connect made in Turkey use? How did they skirt the chicken tax for so many years?
Jump seat?
Oh God, see, I don't know this because this is
You
going to
got
be
it.
Yeah, it's a
newer-
jump
They
seat, yeah.
installed seats and I
Yeah.
called it a passenger van. They
Yeah.
just sent it to the factory and take the seats out.
Yep.
Huh.
Jump seat.
Okay, and then the last question. I'm trying to find a good. I have like 17 of them here. So,
Over
Let's
to
keep
you.
going here.
which brand was sued by Jeep for using a 7-slot grill and won the lawsuit?
Mercedes.
No. Hang on.
Who uses a 7-slot grill?
What year was this?
90s.
90s? Okay. That would have been.
Do it.
No.
The Toyota makes a vehicle that looks just like this thing and sells for like 3 or 4 times the money. Called the Mega Cruiser.
Oh, really?
What does the Mega Cruiser look like?
So it's a Hummer.
It's a Hummer.
Oh, duh.
Took Hummer to
Oh,
court.
that was a good one. That's
So that concludes our automatic quiz game.
fair.
That might have been a little hard. I should have done multiple.
Some of
Those
those
were
were
good.
really hard.
Those were good, but
Those
they
good.
were hard.
Okay, and then finally, to conclude our first podcast here, we're going to do the deferred maintenance segment, which talks about how are our fleets doing? What are we wrenching on?
So I guess since this is the first episode, we should probably just say what we have.
And what we're working on, if
That's fair.
applicable.
Yeah.
Preston, you go first since you have one.
I'm simple. I'm a simple guy.
Yeah,
I just
with
have
a very expensive car payment.
It's not too bad, actually. I have a BMW M550i. This is pre-LCI.
Note the extra numbers behind the
Yes,
M
all
matches.
the numbers. It's a great car. I love it.
Mr. Pop Tune out there agrees.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
It's not tuned at the moment. It was tuned. I did have it tuned for winter, but during summer I took it off. I just don't want anything to happen to the car. So, but no, it's a great car. I love the car.
That's what you get.
Or your
You
fuel
blow
economy?
your warranty.
It is a big V8 twin turbo.
Very
It's
comfy car. Yes.
Fantastically
Very fast.
comfy,
Yeah.
fast.
We had a great road trip in it.
It is
Tucson.
It
Tucson.
does everything very, very well, and I can't complain about a single thing because I love it.
Yeah, it's a nice yacht.
Yeah. I love it. I eventually will buy another Porsche, but I think I'm going to go for a house first, but we'll see.
I'm poorish, but
Yeah, see,
Okay.
that's the downside because I had way too many cars at one point, and I downsized, and now I only have 2. But then I still have my press cars. So
what
it's
did you? Oh, you're down to the
so
Porsche.
yeah,
Okay,
one
sorry,
time
go
did I
ahead.
have 4 cars at one time?
What do you have now?
I have a NC Miata Grand Touring with the limited slip differential, which is important to talk about,
Yes, it
and
is.
keyless entry, and then there's the 1984 Porsche 944.
Radwood
Yep.
with
So-
the meatball. The
With the
meatball makes
meatball.
it look good.
The meatball.
I like the meatball.
Yeah,
I'd rock a meatball in my car.
both
but you already have a
manual
meatball.
cars. So the only time I get to drive automatics is when they're given to me by press leads.
Yes, true Renaissance man right here.
That's right. That's right.
I
Sold
have
all the
got
automatics.
too many cars. I'm trying to downsize, but my daily is a 2016 Mazda 3 manual. I have a hatchback made in Japan. Maintained some of my dignity there. That's going for sale soon, but some lady just hit it and drove off. And so I have an insurance claim. Hopefully I've got fixed and then sold.
That's why it's the daily.
Yeah, it's the daily. It gets beat up. Truck, I have a 2004 Toyota Tacoma. It's on 33s, big bumper ARB, kind of an off-road build. Very capable, very thirsty. Never gets driven, so that's also on the chopping block. And then my fun car is a 1994 Mazda Miata M Edition. 58,000 miles on it, I think I'm up to. Bought it at $47K a few years ago, so that mostly sits in the garage, but it gets driven hard when I drive it. It's had a couple of track days and lots of canyon runs on it. And then I have a camp trailer right behind the camera that I just finished up. It's going on its maiden voyage this weekend, so that's what I got. Tacoma has been what I've been working on, or about to. I'm getting ready to sell. Crawled under it the other day for an oil change and noticed the tie rods are leaking, and the steering rack boot is split, and the CV axles are leaking. So I have a big front end suspension day coming up.
Or
which
just a
sucks.
bunch of JB Weld.
No, I need to make it right. I want top money for it, so I'm going to make it top truck. So
Yeah, it doesn't take much to get top money for a Toyota these days. You can
Yeah.
have 1 billion miles on one and somebody will still give you,
you know,
15
Full
grand.
it's
money.
funny how
Yeah.
many 300,000 mile examples are popping
Yep.
up for 10, 12
Yep.
grand.
Yep.
Mhm.
So if anyone
Insane.
wants a 160,000 mile Tacoma, let me know.
Yeah, or wants to buy a 944. I think I might get rid of that car. But currently, I'm trying to buy a V8 of some sort. I'm upset I sold all of my V8s. I had 2, and I sold
You
them
could have
both.
had a V8.
Every American
And
needs
I
a
want it
V8.
back.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I've never owned a V8.
You should.
that's a shame. You've driven V8s, though, right?
I've
Like
driven a couple of V8s.
Performance-focused manual V8s.
The only I should mention I've driven 146 cars and only 2 of them have been fun V8 manuals. And one of them was I want to say it was like an 08 Corvette manual, and the other one was a Challenger Scat Pack.
Okay, the Scat Pack will do it. Scat Pack is definitely a car that vibrates at idle. So as you're sitting at the intersection,
Oh, and this
it
one had-
vibrates,
this one-
and it gives
this one-
it gives you the right.
This one had the
Motions.
shaker scoop on it, which added
Nice.
to the fun.
It's just because it's cheap. It's falling apart.
Yeah, the shakers are cool. They're actually functional, just not in the traditional sense. They
No,
kinda
it's not a
funnel it
ram
back
air
through the
intake,
box.
but it
Yes.
funnels it through the box. Still cool. And
Yeah.
that is a great option to have that will add lots of value.
I've enjoyed
someday.
the Scat Packs I've had. Yeah,
But
they're cool.
I had more fun in the Corvette. It's just lighter on its
The
feet.
Corvette's a sports car. Yeah, it doesn't delve so much into the V8 side of it. Best bang for buck
And
period. Is
the
a
downside is you expect a Challenger to be comfy because it's big, heavy. It wasn't
They
because it
are
was on such thin
floaty.
tires that the ride quality was iffy.
That happens with new cars too sometimes.
Yep.
There's a couple cars I've had where they just, like, by buying the higher trim model, you get bigger wheels, but then that ruins the ride experience. And when it's a luxury car, you're like, what
Which-
are we doing?
Bigger
Yeah.
wheels are the reason we don't get spare tires anymore, but I'm not going to get... That's
Yeah.
a topic for a different day.
Inflation.
Uh,
That's
so-
for a different day.
You guys want to
So-
wrap it up?
Yeah, with that, that's going to be the end of the podcast. We hope you guys enjoyed it. If you have any topics you want to recommend, let us know. Of course, we're always open to it. And if you are watching it on YouTube and could leave us a like, we'd really appreciate it. And consider getting subscribed for future videos. So with that, thank you so much for listening and or watching, and we will see you next time.
Ciao.